I analyzed Demon Slayer Infinity Castle movie. Demon Slayer's Infinity Castle is a perfect example of why Sony's strategy in animation is winning big. What we will talk about. I'll break down how Ufotable's work on Demon Slayer fits into Sony's larger strategy and why Disney is falling behind. About me. Who am I? My name is Dwayne Elahie. I'm a CG Supervisor in the industry for 20 plus years, been mentoring for 15 plus years, about hundreds of different students over the years, and a lot of them now have 70K plus an annual salary. These are the places they've been at: EA Sports, that's Electronic Arts, ILM, Industrial Light and Magic, Pixar, DreamWorks, Disney, Sony ImageWorks. We haven't met yet, but you've met my work. You could check out my work on IMDb. I've worked on Netflix, The Witcher, James Cameron's Avatar, Assassin's Creed. I was the CG rigging supervisor for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, been on Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs franchise. You may have seen these films and TV shows: K-pop Demon Hunters, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Marvel projects such as Secret Invasion, Iron Man, The Witcher, Avatar, Hunger Games. You can look out the rest on IMDb. So let's get into the video here. So what are the reasons that Sony is so far ahead? So let's look at the case of Demon Slayers. Creative freedom. Sony backs studios like Ufotable through Aniplex, and they do projects such as Spider-Man Enter the Spider-Verse. And these projects are different than the traditional methods that you see that, what do you say traditional? I guess what you think of animation, such as Disney. They established that, and Disney, almost 100 years, has been known as the pinnacle of animation. And every year they do the same type of thing because it does have mass appeal. But with this day and age, now, especially with, I would say, globalization, you could see different styles across the globe and different ways of telling stories and different way of animating and visual storytelling, different pacing. People are seeing different styles, and they're kind of saturated with the same cookie cutter style. So you're seeing now that people who are taking new trends or people are embracing new styles or new ways of doing things are the ones who are taking risks and also doing more bolder things that you're not expecting. Now, the thing about that, though, as I mentioned before, if that was always the case, then every independent movie, every independent game would blow up. So the reason why studios and big companies always do the cookie cutter work is because historically it's been proven to have mass appeal, and people will buy into it because there's a history of showing, oh, this works, so keep doing more of it. Whereas independent films, independent games, independent almost anything purposely go away from the cookie cutter, but with that being said, is not proven, and actually most of the time it doesn't work. Sony seems to have a good balance at the moment where they are putting out new original ideas, and I would say what they're doing is taking a spin on something that always works. So they're taking something that already works and then just changing a couple of elements up there and see how the crowd reacts. And if it works, people start embracing it and start taking it out. As I mentioned in a previous video, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse started doing a certain animation style, which then you see in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And a lot of people that worked on this project worked here. It's not the same studio, but it started influencing the rest of the industry. And even that style in here started influencing K-pop Demon Hunters. This is the same studio in this case, but risk-taking and then seeing how people favorably react to it start now influencing the rest of the industry. But then that becomes a trend, right? Now you're seeing everybody starting doing this style until someone else does something new. The second reason, I mentioned it earlier, I said globalization. Number two, global distribution power, right? So you probably don't know Crunchyroll, that Sony owns that. Sony dominates anime worldwide. With hits like Demon Slayer, it explodes internationally. And it seems like Demon seems to be a hot theme right now because we have Demon Slayer, but then they just also released K-pop Demon Hunters, where they are pretty much mixing K-pop, which is kind of popular right now, trending right now worldwide, and things Demon Slayers, Demon Hunters, those seem to be trending topics. And you'll see this a lot in industry, especially Hollywood. I used to work with a scriptwriter, or it was one of my friends when I was at Sony, and he would tell me pretty much whatever is hot right now, they start looking for things to pretty much capitalize on that trend. So a few years ago, if you remember Twilight, everything vampire related was you see it everywhere. TV shows, movies, spin-offs, books, because that was trend right now. It seems right now it seems to be working at the moment. So Demon Slayers, Demon Hunters seems to be working for Sony right now, and it's working internationally. So they're going to ride that trend, and combining it with other trends like K-pop, they just seem to have a winning formula. Plus, also taking some creative risks in both styles. It just happened to be working out for them at the moment. And the other thing, number 3, cultural connection. I mentioned K-pop. There's anime. There's a lot of things that's going on at the moment, right? For example, K-pop Demon Hunters. Anime is now more globally accepted. K-pop is trending as well, and now Demon is happening, and also Sony is on kind of like a winning streak with their innovative styles. So there's a lot of things. It's like a perfect storm for things to work out for them. Whereas Disney often chases mass appeal. They always look at what is going to work globally to the most amount of people and keep doing that. Whereas Sony supports like niche-driven, depending on how you want to pronounce that, authentic stories, and create loyal fandoms, people who are really loyal to that style. And I take an example of this for Disney. Disney acquired Pixar a while back, and Pixar's original plan was that they'll never revisit a story again. They'll do one movie, do one story, close the book on that, and do something else, because they always want to do a story-driven narrative that's new and fresh. Then when Disney acquired them, then they started doing sequels, because that's what sells. That's what Disney is, a machine that knows how to take a franchise and keep printing money with it, right? So that's when you start seeing Pixar start making sequels like The Incredibles 2 or Toy Story 2, 3, 4, whatnot. They sell, but if you take one of their latest movies, Elio, now when you actually look at the critics of that, the story-wise, people like it. It got good reviews, but box office-wise, I think it only made to date like 120 million. And for the expectations of that movie, because I believe they put in around 200 million to make it work, it's considered a flop. In fact, they probably lost money on it, or at best broke even, right? And the reason why it's a box office flop, not necessarily a story flop, is that it went through the motions. The stories are fine, but the story itself, or I guess the formula itself, is that they went to take the safe route, the predictable route, which has been done, like I said, nearly 100 years now, right? So even though people thought it was good, critics thought it was good, they also thought it was predictable, especially now that we've been exposed to things like K-pop Demon Hunters and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and Demon Slayers, where we're seeing new ways, something fresh out here, and then coming back to what's old, tried and true, that we've seen over and over and over and over again. And if you go to the theaters or the cinema right now and take a random movie, it's probably going to be the same Hollywood formula. It's just, and also now with Netflix as well, Netflix is international, so a lot of the hits, and the thing is, they also localize all their shows, meaning that if a show is made in Korea, it automatically does all the dubs. When I say localization, it does all the dubs for all the different languages. So it's actually worldwide. There's already a worldwide appeal, a worldwide audience. If a show is made here in North America, it's dubbed in all the other languages. So now people are getting exposed to different cultures, different movies, different shows, different mini-series or episodics with a different style, different culture. And you're seeing different things, and it broadened the horizon. So to come back to the same thing that you see for the last 100 years, you see it in a different light. It's not that it's bad, it's just that it's been done before, right? So people know what to expect, and they're not as surprised anymore. Quick heads up for all you 3D artists watching this. If you've been grinding away at tutorials and YouTube videos but still feel stuck, I've got something special for you. I'm hosting a 3D character rapid bootcamp workshop where I'll walk you step by step through the exact skills studios actually hire for. It's not theory. This is the stuff that got me hired and working in the industry. If you want to finally build a portfolio that gets callbacks and interviews, hit the link below and grab your spot. Seats are limited, so if you're serious about going pro, this is your chance. To recap here, Demon Slayer proves the formula creative risk plus global reach plus authentic storytelling equals Disney left scrambling. So the next step, I want you to see how this same formula plays out in Hollywood, and watch also my other breakdown videos of other Hollywood projects that I've worked on or that's trending right now. Bonus tip, when you watch an anime such as Demon Slayer, especially the newer ones now, I would even go watch the newer ones, and my favorite era of anime is like the mid 80s to 90s, and yes, you'll look at that now and the production value is nowhere near as good or close as it is now, but I would say because of the limitations of it, there's creativity and limitations, right? And they were discovering or trying to convey stories when they didn't have much, like how you basically, let's say, show how powerful or how fast the character is when you don't have that many frames of animation. So how do they convey that? So you'll see him take 2 steps, go in slow motion, and then they'll all of a sudden be on the other side, and you'll see like, oh wow, you convey that he's going really fast, but in fact the actual work, if you go frame by frame of that, you'll see that is actually, they did the actual opposite to convey that, right? And that's a creative choice. Nowadays, if you look at how they would do that, look at one of my favorite animes, that's contemporary animes that's out right now. It's solo leveling right now, but it's going to say Demon Slayers obviously have great animation as well. If you freeze frame that, you'll see that how they animate is a lot more detailed than it was back then. So if they try to show the same effect nowadays to move really quickly, they can actually do that in a different way with motion blur, with the camera effects, the fact a lot of it is actually done in 3D and then colored as if it's 2D. Very different than it was done back then, but it's a visual medium that's showed in a different way. So I think it's worth going freeze frame scenes and how it's done now, how it's done in the past, how, like I said, now everything's international, how other projects are doing it worldwide to try to do the same effect. And that will broaden your horizon, give you different ideas of how to do different visual storytelling. Other things, study bold choices. I mentioned earlier that Disney style and the Hollywood style has been around for like 100 years now. And now we have international and there's localization. Look at how other countries, other cultures tell their stories. In film, in a Hollywood film, it's a script is about 85 pages, and a page is about 1 minute of screen time. So, but if you look at internationally at other things, at other places, let's say you will go to Bollywood, they have a different structure. They have an act one, well, like an intermission between it is it's longer, right? If you actually look at Demon Slayers here, Infinity Castle, that the runtime is about, I think, 2 hours and like 35 minutes. And so the structure is definitely not the Hollywood structure at all for that. However, if you watch the movie, I still think it works because of the way they laid out. In fact, the whole movie was just basically about the battle scene the whole time, right? Or the battle sequence, or the battle part of it is not a traditional movie. In fact, you have to be aware of Demon Slayer. They're getting confused between the two names. But Demon Slayer, you have to be aware of the anime and up to date to understand what's going on. But what's interesting about it as well is that they have the protagonist and antagonist, and even though you're going for the protagonist most likely, when you have the antagonist or the bad guy, they don't just show he's a bad guy trying to take over the world. They stop and show like his introspective, his upbringing, his past, to figure out why he is how he is, or she how she is, and also their thought process, and then you have a better understanding of this. They've done this as well in Hajime no Ippo, which is another one of my favorite animes, and I find that is something they don't really do as much in Hollywood scripts. They do have a part where they show the character's backstory. A lot of the time, the backstory is mainly for the protagonist or the hero, and the antagonists, they're usually like, okay, that's the villain that they have to fight against, or the obstacle, or representation of the obstacle. You don't really understand their motivation. So seeing how other cultures handle that, I think, is a really good thing. And the other thing, copy risk-taking. Well, I would say that with a caveat, right? It's called risk-taking for a reason. It's a risk because you're going against the grain. And of course, when it works, people talk about it, people make videos about it, they revere about it. But like, the thing to remember is that hindsight is 20/20. When you see something work and we talk about why everyone should be doing this is great, why anyone haven't done this before, the truth is probably thousands of people have tried to do something new before, and you can prove it again by going to independent film or independent games. You can go out. There's conventions. I'm pretty sure if you want to see risk taking and you want to learn how other people are doing it, go Google search right now in your local area, film festivals, independent film festivals, independent game. There's probably some meetups. There's probably some type of group or showing for it, and you'll see that how different that it is than the norm. But I would also argue that most likely you probably won't like most of it, because they are doing something that is completely different. A lot of times something that means something to them, but it doesn't have mass appeal. If it did, then they'll be making blockbuster hits. So the idea is copy risk-taking, but I would say with a caveat, if you want to do independent film, independent games, that's fine. Just understanding that's more of an art expression, and don't expect the masses to basically embrace it. You might find your other peers in that space, in that niche or niche, that it enjoys it as well. But if you're trying to go for mass appeal and try to do something new, I would advise, of course you could always do what you want, but I would advise, look at other companies what are they changing from what is most people are enjoying, like the mass appeal. Like, for example, that will be the baseline. Let's say what Disney's doing. You take that and you say, okay, what's one or two things I could change that most people won't expect, and that give at least a fresh take. That way it's kind of like a hybrid. If you're trying to be commercially successful and try to do something new or fresh, take the baseline of something that works and then change something that you think that will throw people off from what they're naturally expecting, right? And that alone is already going to be a big risk, because just going against the norm, people will be like, oh, they'll either like it or they won't. So, and if they like it, that's great. Then try changing another thing. Again, this is a suggestion if you wanted to do something new, but still try to appeal to the masses. Of course, if you're trying to do an artistic expression, do what you want, but just don't expect people to like it, right? And if you try to make money completely, if you're watching my other videos as well, if you're looking for things that people are already going for, and do exactly that. The risk of that, though, for your own personal sake, is that it's boring. It doesn't inspire you as an artist. So if that's important to you, it's up to you to find that balance, right? And the biggest mistakes to avoid, I would say playing it safe, right? So I did mention, yes, if you're trying to say appeal to the masses and actually enjoy commercial success, you're trying to find what works and keep doing it. But you keep doing it until it stops working. Eventually it's going to stop working, right? At that point, you're going to have to find something new. So there is still going to be some type of balance where you're going to do something that works most of the time, but you still have to look for something else and take some risks to see and venture out there and explore new territories and see if that works out. So playing the safe the whole time may seem like a good risk-averse strategy, but overall, nothing's forever, right? So you good at playing it safe, you're gonna get a rude awakening when one day everything just stops working, right? So I would still suggest you do take some risk to some degree to look out for something new, right? The other big mistake is if you're again trying to express yourself, right? Standing down uniqueness, right? Again, if you're trying to sell and do something that works, trying to fit in, that's fine. But if you're trying to appeal to the masses and make like a mass effect or have an impact, having some level of uniqueness that differentiates yourself is what's gonna do it. If you do exactly what's already been done, you're gonna either get the same result or less because people already seen it before. And yeah, biggest mistake, avoid taking any real risk. If I say if you're gonna take risk, do risk where there's a ROI or a good return on investment. A real risk where, they say fortune favors the bold, right? If you want big success, you're gonna have to take big risks. If you take small risks where there's no real stakes at it, well then if you lose at them, you haven't really lost anything, but at the same time, if you get it, you haven't really gained much as well, right? So, if you want to win big, you gotta play big too, right? So what are your thoughts? Leave your comments below.